Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Dan McLennan.
A ding-dong with the Dons ends in 3 points for the Blues. We review the win over AFC Wimbledon that makes it 7 home games in a row unbeaten, before looking ahead to this weekend's trip to South Wales to take on Newport County, where United haven't won since 1988.
With a pass so true to Boulder Stone and Clark's in view. There's a cross and a run, the old one too.
Always a little bit misleading, those stats, aren't they? Haven't won since so-and-so, when you haven't actually played that team every single season. It's a little bit naughty sometimes to do that. But
well, yeah, because Newport County only reformed in '89.
Exactly. I mean, to be fair, you did point out the fact that we've played them in every season since we've come back into League Two, haven't we? Because they are the joint longest-serving team in the division alongside Mansfield Town.
Yeah, that was just when we were chatting before recording, wasn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, here's a little quick quiz question for you, Dan. So obviously the last time we beat Newport, as I mentioned there, was in 1988, in the 87-88 season, the season when Newport did go bust and basically saved our backside because we finished second bottom that season. So we beat Newport at Newport, 1-2-1. Who scored the goals that day?
Oh, let me have a think. Come back to it after the news. Give us a couple of minutes to think. 87-88.
Yeah, well, we'll do that in a second, but there you go.
I think I have an idea on that. So,
well done. Stop ratcheting his brains to try and think who it could be. Just a reminder that once again this season, the podcast has been sponsored by the Carlisle United Supporters Club London branch. The London branch is open to all Carlisle United fans. They've got members from Cornwall to Dundee and Houston, Singapore, and of course every part of London and the South East. They regularly meet up on away trips, as well as arranging many social events, sports games and fundraising for the club. They'll be providing us with information for the away games as part of the preview section this season too. You can find out more about London Branch at their website, carlisle.londonbranch.org. And obviously a reminder as well, if you don't already, subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, all good podcast apps, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, the one that I use. Just click subscribe, and every time a new episode comes out, you get a little alert to let you know, and you can download it to your phone or whatever device you use and listen to it on the go. And if on any of these apps you can review us as well, that would be fantastic. I think the main two are Apple and Spotify. They're the ones who let you review podcasts, and I think at the moment we're like 4.9 on both of them, which is very generous indeed. Thank you very much for that. And also follow us on social media at Brunton Bugle on Twitter and Instagram. We're on Facebook, just search Brunton Bugle and click like. We're on the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook group as well. And also you can find us on the Cumbins.net message board as well. And as I always say, if you want to go old school, email us bruntonbugle@gmail.com. Right, Dan, onto the news section, very brief. There's only one bit of news this week, isn't there? It's been quite a few weeks, hasn't it, actually, news-wise, really? Not a few.
Yeah, I think with, transfers calmed down and that, haven't they? So...
Yeah. So the only bit of news is basically that United now know not just who their opponents are, but when their first round tie in the Cumberland Cup is going to take place. So they're going to face West Cumbrian side Cleaton Celtic, and they'll travel down the A595 on Tuesday, the 11th of October, for a 7:30 p.m. kickoff. I think that was it the quarter-final tie last season, I think, against Clayton Celtic?
Yeah, I think it's about the furthest game we can have as well, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think once you go beyond that, you get into teams that play. I think like Millom were playing the Lancashire Cup, I think, weren't they, alongside Barrow and teams like that. It's basically the old county setup, essentially, isn't it? From before 1974, I think it is. So yeah, like you said, it's pretty much the longest tie you can pick. And Clayton Celtic, they're actually in the football pyramid these days, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They're in the thingy now, aren't they?
They're in. Is it the northwest counties? I think it is these days.
Yeah,
because I think they do they play Isle of Man in their league, or Isle of Man in the other one?
I think they're in the southern half because it's near to the airport. It's basically because, all going off topic, Isle of Man pay for travel. for all away teams.
Yeah, I think the government subsidise the team basically, don't they? Because they want to try and get a team into high up the pyramid and get people coming to the Isle of Man and stuff like that. And so if you don't know about them already, go and have a look because they only set up in
Isle of Man are the division above now.
Are they? Right, they got promoted fair days. Yeah, if you don't know about it, go and have a look it up because it's really interesting actually what's happening there, isn't it? And it could be quite an interesting one if we can get them in the FA Cup in the next few years, maybe. I think they were knocked out quite early on this year, weren't they, sadly?
They play at 6 o'clock usually because it fits in with the flights and whatnot.
Yeah, it fits in quite nicely, doesn't it? And I think some teams go by ferry as well, don't they? I think from Liverpool and Heysham. So there you go. That's the new section. Go on, quiz answer. Go on, who are you going to go for?
Mally Poskett.
Yeah, Mally Poskett got both goals.
Yeah, I was just trying to think. I'm sure he was still here, 87, 88.
Yeah, there you go. That's going back a bit, isn't it? Then it's a 2-1 win in front of a crowd of 1,376. Wow, that shows how desperate football was in the 80s, doesn't it? In terms of crowds, it was very low, wasn't it? So you'll remember that a bit better than me, Dan, because you were going to games then and I wasn't. So. There you go. Not saying you're old or anything, but right. Let's get into the match review section then, Dan. I said in the intro it was a bit of a ding dong, and it certainly was, wasn't it? In terms of a few handbags during the game and stuff like that. But United came out on top with a 2-1 win over AFC Wimbledon at Brunton Park. Another game where we showed really good character to get a result, wasn't it, Dan?
Yeah, it wasn't the best game to begin.
No,
but overall, I think we deserved it. We had more shots, more corners. They seemed to be intent on having WWE wrestling matches all over the pitch.
Yeah.
Which didn't really work.
Yeah.
The referee bottled sending Towler off.
I mean, I've got to say, he lost control in this game, didn't he? And the thing is, I'm looking down through the thing and I haven't actually put it as a talking point. I'm a bit surprised myself that I forgot to. But yeah, he did not have a good game, Andy Haynes, did he?
No. I think that's... I mean, I know we keep saying it. We don't like to have a go at officials, but good grief, that was atrocious on Saturday.
It wasn't like there was one... I mean, the fact there was one big decision, wasn't there, which we'll get onto in a little bit. But there wasn't like dozens of those like really bad decisions and that. It was just like... He just gradually just let the game get away from him. That was the problem, wasn't it? And there was niggly fouls going all over the place. And like you said, he should have sent Towler off. He really should have done, but he completely bottled out that decision. So a bit frustrating on that one, really, there. But there you go. So yeah, I mean, talk about the game itself then, Dan. Team selection, no massive surprise, was it? It was totally unchanged from the Mansfield game. A game we both agreed was a good performance where we probably could have got the 3 points. I mean, he's never, unless there's knocks or injuries, he was never going to change it, was he?
No. Like we said, the first 11 sort of picked itself given the various injuries in the squad.
Yeah.
Interesting, we didn't use a sub on Saturday.
No, and that's down as a talking point for later as well. It's a really fair point, that, because it's an interesting one. A lot of people will be like, oh, doesn't really make sense. That surely you want to freshen it up, but we'll get on to that. Let's talk about the goals then, Dan, because this is one where you get a chance to crow this week, don't you? So, Callum Guy, talk about unexpected goal scorers, but you would suggest otherwise, wouldn't you?
Well, I knew he was due on. No, joking apart. I actually know of a Carlisle fan, I won't name him because that's not fair, who backed Callum Guy first goal and a 2-1 win last week. And wow. I think it was 155 to 1 or something. And he had a fiver on it for some unknown mad reason.
That's a nice little holiday sorted, isn't it?
Isn't it just?
Wow. Fair play. That's quite incredible. 780, did you say? Yeah.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, what about that? Blimey. Fair play to the lads, you know. You certainly enjoyed that one. Yes, and it was nice to see him get off the scotch because he does like a long-range shot occasionally, Callum, doesn't he? And I'm pretty sure he's hit the bar 3 or 4 times for us and just been a bit unlucky. But this one, actually, you know what? Because of the quality of the final strike, people are focusing on that. But the build-up was excellent, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I actually missed the goal in the flesh because I, like many people, because I literally went to the toilet before going downstairs outside. Yeah. So I was just at the bottom of the stairs when the Chio went up. I was like, oh, typical. Not the first time, won't be the last. But no, I obviously watched it on the YouTube highlights, and No, it was a decent effort, wasn't it? You know, it was
Yeah.
you know, it was just reward as well, I think.
So yeah, it's a good team move. Got the ball out wide. It came to Guy actually first, and Gibson picked Guy out on the edge of the box, and he played out wide to back, got the ball back from back, and showed some nice little footwork to cut inside. And then as he's lining up, you think to yourself, well, why is he ever going to go here with his left foot? Oh wait, no, it's in the back top corner. And I think I actually sat in the East stand for this game, which I'll talk about in a minute. But right behind it when he hit it, and you knew straight away, keeper's got no chance with that. He hit it so well because it's not actually that far away from the keeper, but it's so well struck that basically it's near enough past the keeper by the time he's started diving, isn't it? So lovely finish, and I think for someone who's occasionally got a bit of stick in the last couple of seasons, it was nice to see him finally get that goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Frustratingly, into the second half, the first clear-cut chance that Wimbledon have, they scored. Because when I went through the extended highlights, there wasn't a single Wimbledon chance featured in the first half of it. And this was the first one that came up, actually, as a chance for them, I think. And it was the simplicity of it that really was a bit frustrating, wasn't it? And there's been a couple of goals like this recently that maybe it's something we need to look at how we deal with that now. It's a long ball forward, and they had Josh Davidson up front for them, who was on loan at Swindon last season, and he caused us problems in that game. But he was very quiet in this one, actually, I have to say. But the one occasion he got away from Huntington and won a flicked header. And you know what? You can't expect Paul Huntington to win every single header. You've got to anticipate that maybe one or two he won't get to. So Davidson wins this header. It's flicked on beyond, and I think it's a combination of Mellish and Feeney are both caught a bit flat-footed, aren't they? They're a little bit, caught out by.
I think they're just expecting Huntington to win it, aren't they?
Yeah, and you, like I said, that's why you've got to be careful. You've got to make sure you're anticipating potentially he won't get to it. So ball's flicked on, and the lad Sal, I mean, he was quite nippy and a bit chippy all day, wasn't he? Actually, the way he played, and he got himself away, and it was a good finish, to be fair. And you could see how frustrated Thomas Hurley was. He was just like, oh, for God's sake, really simple play to open up a goal, and really frustrating there. But it wouldn't be a United game without a Kristian Dennis goal at the moment, would it? No, it's our easy way of getting points in the Predictor League as well. That's the thing. Once again, the hero, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's just the best 6-yard snibber we've had since Ian Stevens, isn't he? Which I know I keep saying it, but he keeps proving it right, doesn't he?
Exactly, and this was an absolute prime example of this. And I think Simo in the post-match, didn't he, described it as he got himself into the position of maximum opportunity, POMO. So basically,
don't be bringing these bloody. Yeah, you'll be talking XG and all that nonsense.
Hey, our Lord and Saviour is described as that, so don't diss it.
I saw the new one today on Twitter. XT.
Expected tackles.
Expected
Fret. I mean, God.
And I was like, good grief.
The problem is that it's all vague, and I've said this before on here. Expected goals is a good stat to use in the long term. On an individual game basis, it's a useless stat. It doesn't really tell you that much. On a long-term basis over like 10, 12, 15 games, you can get an idea of they are a wasteful side. They need to be doing better with their chances, or they're a side that's making really good use of the chances, because really they shouldn't be as high as they say. So I think there's an expected goals table someone put up, I saw on Twitter the other day. Based on that, we probably should be about fifth at the moment. So it shows that maybe we're not taking as many of our chances as we should be. Which we know is the fact. We know that we've drawn too many games, so it's not too bad in that sense. But let's talk about Dennis's goal. Good play by Patrick on the left. We'll talk about him in a minute, because excellent second half he had. Cut inside from that left wing, sent in a bit of a low cross, but Jack Armour did really well. He actually started this move, so he did really well to actually get himself on the end of this. Flicked the ball onto the far post, and there was Kristian Dennis. Just alert, wasn't he, Dan? But literally about a yard out, wasn't it, when he finished it? To nod the ball home and give the keeper no chance.
Yeah, right place at the right time. Still got to convert it. I think Jack Armour deserves. We're quite a little bit of a secret Jack Armour fan club, aren't we? I mean, Finn Back's probably made the headlines of the two wing backs this season, but Jack Armour, week to week, is getting better and better in that position for me.
Yeah,
and it is. I think he's understanding it more. He's getting used to having a settled defence. You know, it's.
I think it really helps him as well having someone like John Mellish there who will bomb forward and support him effectively, overlap, underlap. So they've got a really good understanding, which is apparently they're really good mates off the pitch as well, which is really good to see.
And also when Patrick plays, he will drift out left as well because he likes to cut in and beat players. So you know, there's natural outlets for Armour to pass to. You know, and I'd just like to see him finish one of these chances that comes from the right-hand side one week.
I'm sure he will do.
I'm sure he will do. And when he does, I think it'll just elevate him a bit more. Yeah. It'll give him a bit more confidence.
He's played pretty much near enough every minute so far this season, hasn't he? He's been worked to the ground. And the good thing is we've got Taylor Charters back now. And obviously I know we don't talk in depth or anything about the trophy games. We've talked about that in the past. But by all accounts, he had a good game in midweek again. And you know, that's what you want to hear. You want to hear that he's doing well and he's going to be knocking that door. And maybe you'll find, you know, when Jack runs himself into the ground for 70 minutes, say, right, go on, Taylor, you have 20 minutes here and have a good go at the fullback. And it's good that we're going to have options there, isn't it, really? That's encouraging. Well, I mean, let's talk about some of the other chances then, Dan. And there was plenty for United, to be fair. You know, it wasn't a game where there wasn't much happening. First half, I think there was a chance, wasn't there, where there was some good build-up down the left and Mellish, as he's done a lot in recent games, got himself into the box, and this time he played a really good ball across. And just frustrating, there was no one there to finish it off, was there? And that's just, you know, just the way it is sometimes. Another one where some lovely footwork on the edge of the box from Dennis, nice little dink pass into the area, and Amari's got to anticipate that the defender's potentially going to miss that. I think, actually, to be fair, now I've said this again, I think the defender gets ever such a slight touch on the ball. Not much, but enough to flick it and probably put Amari off, and he miscontrols and it goes straight to the keeper, doesn't it? If he gets it under control, that's 1-0, isn't it, basically, with that chance he had there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a decent chance. And, well, the other main chance was Guy's goal, which we touched upon already. Into the second half, I mean, we'll talk about the penalty appeal in a minute. Utterly ridiculous decision, but there you go. I think from that penalty, actually, appeal, we had a corner, and Moxon's corner in from the left, whipped into that near post, and Paul Huntington got on it, but just couldn't quite get enough of a cute sort of flick onto it, didn't he? He sort of powered it wide instead. That's going to give us a lot of goals this season, isn't it, that set piece? Yeah.
I mean, fair play to Wimbledon. They've done the research, and they defended our corners quite well, I thought. Oh. You know, they were quite a strong physical team. There's plenty of teams where we will get the chances from the corners.
Yeah, well, I think I pointed out to you in a group WhatsApp we're in today. Or was it today? Yeah, I think it was today. There's a guy who does analytics, some excellent analytics on Newport County and their upcoming opponents. And he's picked out a clip of our corners against Wimbledon and pointed out what a really clever routine we've got to drag defenders away from the far post and create space for. It looks like Kristian Dennis is basically the one who's lurking there, isn't it? Basically looking to try and get.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement from the runners, isn't there?
Yeah, he said it's a really, really interesting how we do it, and he also picked out a great clip from the Mansfield game that we forgot to mention in the review of that game. An unbelievable throw from Thomas Holy, wasn't it? From his own box, picking out Amari Patrick with his feet in the opposition half. Ridiculous little bit of stuff from Thomas that was, but there you go. I'm digressing a little bit here. Let's get back onto the chances. Patrick did well to bring a ball down on the left, set himself with a couple of nice touches and hit a shot on the bounce that I think a few yards either side, that's in the top corner, and that's a goal, isn't it? Really well struck, that shot, but annoyingly it was literally straight at the goalkeepers there. Yeah. Easy for him to save. Up the other end, Paris Magoma, probably one of the few sort of lively players for Wimbledon. He showed some good work on the edge of the box after Wimbledon won the ball in our half, but then his shot on the turn was well wide of Holy's goal. Harry Pell had a low free kick that Holy actually, I've wrote comfortably saved it, but actually did very well to hold on to it because there was players looking to pick up the loose ball. And then again, up the other end,
I genuinely don't get the fuss over Harry Pell.
His free kicks aren't that great. I've been told that he's been on for free kicks.
He's not that great.
I think in the right team he can be a good player, but I think he's as much a nuisance as anything.
He has a bit of previous with a couple of hours from a Christmas do, doesn't he?
Yeah, we've said that before, yeah. Up the other end, great work by Patrick to win the ball just inside his own half. Great run down the left, cut inside, hit a curling shot. This one was a bit more tougher for the keeper, but well held again. And once again, won the ball back through good pressure. Eventually made it way to Patrick on the left. He played a ball inside for Gibson, who's first time shot. He's been a bit unlucky in the last couple of games, hasn't he? He's got himself into really good positions on the edge of the box, and the keeper saved it. And then in the follow-up, it's a bit of a scramble, and was he clipped or not? I don't think he probably was, to be honest. I don't think it would have been a penalty. I think it would have been a harsh penalty decision, wouldn't it? I think that one. And the Wimbledon got it away. And then late on, long ball forward by Wimbledon saw Hudlin. I mean, he was a big lad, wasn't he? He flicked the ball on, found a Sal, but he tried to curl a dipping shot over Thomas Holy from.
I think he's actually an inch taller than Holy. Yeah,
I'm not official measurements online, and you can never trust these because they never show us the right. Say that they're both 2'6", 2 meters and 6 centimeters, basically. So
I saw one saying that Hudlin was 6'10".
I think he's 6'9". I'm not. It's a weird one. I'm not sure, but he's a big lad. I mean, he was on our side. He's a massive lad. When he was coming to, when there was that little one with that set two towards the end of the game, he was down there that end, and he was trying to get the ball off Feeney, I think it was, and bloody hell, he towered over Feeney. He was a big lad. I'm surprised they didn't bring him on sooner. Really, it's a little bit of a strange one, really, but because they weren't really creating a massive amount, and when he came on, he did cause problems. He was a big lad. But yeah, that's pretty much the chances summed up, isn't it, Dan? I mean, very few for Wimbledon, some really good ones for us. Just need to be a little bit more clinical with some of them, don't we? That's the big issue at the moment.
I can't wait for this week when it clicks.
Because
when it does, we keep saying 3 or 4. It's going to end up 6 or 7.
I know. I'm trying to think who's the game coming up that potentially. I mean, Hartlepool away. Imagine. I mean, you'd enjoy that certainly. We'll touch on that later. Obviously, there's a bit of it in the Exiles. I don't think I put that in actually. So you'll have to remember to say that bit in the Exiles.
Rather not.
I know you want. I'll do that bit if you want. Right. Well, should we do our 6-second reviews then? This week we've got Craig Robson and one of our regulars, Greg Bullman, has dropped us one as well. So young Craig is the first one up. So here's what he had to say.
Hi, it's me again. This is my 60-second review for the game on Saturday against Wimbledon. The game started with a sad moment for the minute silence for the Queen. The sadness carried on in the first 44.5 minutes, except for the Patrick chance and Mellish's messy moment, dribbling into the box before a cross that no one got into the end of. Many people think that Patrick's chance was an absolute sitter that he somehow tragically missed. But if you look at it on the pitch side blues, you can see that he thought the defender was getting the ball before him, so it more hit him in the chest more than he tried to control it. There were a few chances, but the better ones fell to Carlisle. Then after 175 games, Guy finally gets his first EFL goal, and it wasn't a bad one either. A left foot shot drilled into the net, surprising Guy as well as the crowd. Then typical Carlisle luck strikes again, and we concede a very poor goal. I don't like to put the blame on certain people, but it was Mellish's fault. He didn't follow his runner, letting him run behind after Huntington missed the header. Then from that point on, it was a bit more even of a game, but I still think we were slightly on top. Then we started getting a few chances. Then few chances start to turn into a Danish goal. After some decent play from Patrick, who's looking like he's getting back into form. A certain penalty missed by the ref, who had a terrible game. Wimbledon lucky to still have 11 men on the pitch. But then it was just about seeing the game out and sealing the win, and we did. And finally, my man of the match would be Guy. A good performance as well as the goal. Up the Blues.
Look, good assessment once again from Craig, wasn't it?
I'll tell you something. Craig will be hosting this with us in a few years' time.
Probably, yeah. We'll
Excellent point about the handball.
Yeah, well, we'll touch that in just a sec. I'm just going to say, I did enjoy his bit of saying, I don't like to put the blame on someone, but I'm going to blame John for this one. To be fair, we did similar. We said it was both Mellish and Feeney there. And he gave Callum Guy man of the match, should be noticed. The whoscored.com website also had him down as man of the match.
And something I was going to mention, which I think you possibly got in the thing, Amari Patrick, looking a bit more like the old.
Absolutely. Should we talk about the penalty first? Let's talk about that decision. Now, I'm baffled how this hasn't been given. So, for those who haven't seen it, go and dig out on the club's YouTube, and I think it's on a few other bits as well. So, essentially, ball sort of on the left-hand side of the box, playing it about, and I think, was it Patrick tried to play the ball back into the box, I think it was? I think he got the ball from Armour. It was either Patrick or Armour, I can't remember which one it was now. And the ball, basically, as the ball comes up, I think Chris Gunter tries at first with his right arm to appeal for something, maybe the ball going out. In fact, yeah, I think it was Patrick who played his arm, wasn't it? He sort of tried to dink it in. And he tried to claim the ball had gone out with his right arm, but then his left arm was up as well. And he turned and looked to block, and basically it hit his hand. And his arm was not in a natural position, and it wasn't super close either, was it? Now, the ref's seen this contact because he's given a corner to us. How can he not give a penalty for that?
Yeah. It was one of the clearest in a long time for me.
Yeah. It takes me back to... I'm going back a bit here, and some of the younger fans won't remember this, but do you remember that game against Southend, Dan, where we got a penalty given against us for that handball on Adam Rundle years ago? I think it was like a low free kick came down. It hit Rundle's foot and bounced up onto his hand. Now, that was given as a penalty. Now, I know the rules have all changed since then, but if something like that's given a penalty, how can that not be? It's madness. It was so obvious, and it's lucky it didn't cost us the 3 points in the end. But, I mean, an experienced official of 16 seasons in the EFL should be spotting that, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
It's just really frustrating. Like you said, he missed a few of a bit, and he lost control. I mean, at the end, that little bit where Feeney was being a little bit immature, not giving the ball back to Hudlin, and that. But that all came from him just losing control of the game, didn't he? And he just kept letting things go. And then when he had started actually giving bookings and stuff, he had no choice to give more, didn't he? So, not a great performance from that referee, I think it's fair to say. Well, I mean, quickly, let's talk about the Patrick point that you mentioned there, and you mentioned there, Dan. I mean, quite-ish first half for him. Second half, looked a little bit stronger, didn't he? He looked a little bit more like the player we know, didn't he? I think a tactical change certainly helped things, didn't it? I think moving to the 4-3-3 instead of the 3-5-2, I should say, rather than 5-3-2. And you got the best out of him that left wide position, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, is he a striker or left winger? It's a big conundrum, isn't it? Because
he's a winger.
He's played both sort of thing, hasn't he? I think the switch to 4-3-3 showed that we do have a bit of flexibility with the players we've got.
Yeah. Definitely made a difference, didn't it? The switching to that. And he was just playing with a bit of confidence, wasn't he? That was the key thing. He was getting the ball, and you could see him. He's like, right, my job now. I don't have to worry about the centre backs. I'm going at this fullback. I'm going to take him every time. And 2 or 3 times he got past him, didn't he? Yeah. And that's the difference. That's the big difference. And I suppose it does open a real big question, Simmer. What do you do here? Because Mellish moved into midfield, and actually Mellish played well again in midfield, didn't he? I think he's so adaptable now. He can just do a job whenever you ask him to, can't he? He's a really good player in that sense.
The big problem is he came off after 30-odd minutes midweek in the games we don't talk about.
Yeah, that's the worry, isn't it? Obviously, that'll come in the preview section. But yeah, it's a frustrating one really at the moment. But yeah, I think we're all in agreement. Great performance from Marian, and you know, we want to see more of that. We want to see him do it again.
Definitely.
Okay, Dan, shall we get on to the next 6-second review then? It's one of our regulars. It's Greg Bullman. He's dropped us a 6-second review, and as ever, I'm sure this will be as entertaining as they've always been.
Hi, Lee. It was a really entertaining and pleasurable experience on Saturday because you went to the East Stand rather than the paddock. So I really enjoyed that. Getting to the match, the first half was like all the other first halves that have been lately. It was a bit of a drab affair until the goal went in. I called the goal. I said we were going to score before half-time, and it happened, and a cracking goal by Guy that it was. Referee's been taking a lot of stick online. I thought for the first half Howard did okay, and then he was absolutely abysmal. Their number 12, he got subbed off before, he got sent off, and Harry Pell should have been sent off twice. He was just a fug. He's not a footballer. He's a disgrace of a footballer, is Harry Pell. But no, a pleasing win, and let's hopefully keep it going. I thought the defence looked solid apart from the goal that we conceded. Finback had a good game again. So yeah, all very encouraging.
Thanks for that, Greg. little dig at me for my little move. I'll talk about that in just a minute anyway. But interesting, he agrees with you on Pell quite strongly, doesn't he? He's not much of a fan either. The point about that tackle he made on, I think it was on Moxon, I think it was off Feeney, I can't remember who it was on the left-hand side. He actually won the ball in that cycle. That was right in front of where I was sat. And when I first saw it, I thought, oh, it's a little bit rash, but he's won the ball, so booking makes sense. I don't think it was a red card personally, but others may disagree with me on that one. I don't know, but yeah, no, I thought it was a fair assessment, that, isn't it? You know, he's I like how he says, "Oh, I called the goal." Well, I wasn't there to hear it, Greg, for once, so you can't claim that. But yeah, not much you can disagree with there from what Greg said, is there, Dan? I suppose.
No, not at all.
No. Looking at some of the other talking points I picked out. No subs. Let's talk about that one. Obviously, you mentioned it earlier. Quite surprising. The funny thing is, even sitting there, I wasn't thinking to myself, we need fresh legs here. We desperately need fresh legs. I was looking at the bench thinking, okay, we've got players there. But the ones on there are doing okay, actually. So sometimes you can make a change just for the sake of it, can't you, really? And Simo strikes me as someone who's smart enough now to know, you know what, I don't need to make a sub here. They're playing well as a unit. Let's stick with it.
Yeah, but it's also a good way of wasting time very late on.
True.
You know, I'm talking into injury time here, like, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you can make that many now. You can waste half of injury time.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a fair point. To be fair, that Dan, I wouldn't disagree. I mean, let's talk about one last point before we look at the League Two roundup, and I'll talk as well about why I was in the East Stand. Fortress Brunton Park, 7 games now without defeat at home. In fact, if you stretch it back a bit further to when Simo took over, it's now just 2 defeats in the last 12 at home. That's an impressive record, isn't it?
Not bad going at all.
At the end of the day, if you get your results at home and you pick up the odd one away from home, you're going to be right up the table, aren't you? That's what they always say.
Win at home, draw away, and you're never ever far away. That's what they say.
Oh, nice little bit of poetry there. So, certainly the best bit of football poetry I've heard in a while, I think it's fair to say. Because
you listen to much football poetry.
Well, I'm thinking more some of the ones some of the ones that have been read out in court recently, shall we say? So yes. Yeah, before we do the League Two thing, just explain. Yeah, I wasn't in my usual place in the East Stand the weekend. I was in the paddock. I was in the East Stand. First time I think I've been in there since I think a game when we played Oldham in the season we went down. I seem to remember I went in there for a game for some reason. I'm not sure exactly why, but yeah, so it's about 8 years at least. In fact, no, yeah, 8 or 11. Anyway, been a while since I've been in there. Setup's all quite good in there actually. The kids zone thing, because obviously I had my niece and nephew there, looked really good actually. I've never been in it before. It was quite good to see how many young fans were at the game. Basically, my nephew Miles was mascot. You might have all seen my ugly mug up on the big screen because they used a photo of him from my wedding in the summer. But yeah, bless him, Miles. He's still quite a young man.
You get married, like?
Yeah, funny enough, I've not mentioned it for a few episodes. I had no choice to mention that because I had to explain why you used the bloody photo. But yeah, no, it was nice to see him out there on the mascot. He was maybe a little bit too young. He was quite shy, to be honest. But he seemed to enjoy it.
I think I said to you, I think there was a lass who was a mascot, sort of put her arm out to just guide him along, which was nice to see.
Yeah, she did a lovely job.
Big shout out to whoever she was.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've not got a copy of the programme with me, so I can't pick her name out, but well done to her. Really, really good to see the way she helped Miles as well. But it was funny because he had to wear a goalkeeper kit because there was an issue trying to get a kit in his size in the club shop. Then typical area, isn't it? Really absolute shambles of their kit size and stuff like that. I got him a size 6 to 7 kit, and bear in mind he only turns 5 next week, and it didn't fit him. It was too, it was going to be too small for him within like a month or two, so it was like ridiculous. But there you go. But yeah, so it was just a good day out for him. I think he really enjoyed it actually in the end. He was a little bit shy, but funny because he had his goalkeeper kit on. They put him with Thomas Hurley coming down the tunnel. He's got this tiny little 5-year-old coming down the tunnel with his 6'9" giant. And my brother got a video. There's a brilliant photo of Thomas bending down and giving a big thumbs up to the camera while he stood there. But yeah, the players all really looked after him as well. I think they recognised he was a little bit nervous and stuff. And it's a fantastic thing that they do. The club really is one of the, we always say on the community side, they do a lot of good stuff, the club, don't they, really? So it's well done to that. Big shout out to Miles as well for nearly taking out Jaden Harris during the warm-up. Bless him. He wasn't really interested in kicking the ball about on the pitch. He was sat by the side of the pitch, but when he saw us on the other side, he came running across. And he was he must have been a couple of feet away from smashing into Jaden Harris, who was running across the pitch at the same time, but he fell on his backside just before he got to Harris, thankfully. So that would have been a bit controversial, to say the least. But yeah, great. Lucky mascot on the end. He touched the match ball as well beforehand, so maybe we'll have to get him to do that every match. There you go. Right, before we get to the second half, Dan, League 2 roundup. It's another week, another Leyton Orient win, isn't it? Can't stop them, aren't they? Like I said, it's a testament to getting a good manager in sometimes, isn't it? And getting the right setup for them, because they've not made a massive signings in the summer, I don't think, Orient. And look at them, I'm hearing names like Omar Beckles, who's been there for ages, and people like that. So, he's clearly worked with what they've got, added a bit of extra to it, and got them performing brilliantly, hasn't he?
Yeah, Wellens, he's gone from strength to strength. He got the manager of the month, didn't he?
I presume he did. I can't see how anyone else would.
Yeah, I think he did, and there's been no curse or anything, and it's set up very nicely for this weekend, isn't it?
Well, it has indeed, because Barrow won again somehow. I mean, they won at Newport. They've got an appalling record at home, as we'll touch in the second half. But yeah, that means this weekend it's second versus first at Holker Street. Big game for them. I saw, I think there was a tweet from Adam Johnson, the Radio Cumbria commentator, saying how their biggest crowd since coming back into the league was against us for the Cumbrian derby. And they're hopeful that they can maybe beat that. I'm not sure whether Orient will bring the full allocation all the way up, potentially, for the game. But yeah, good luck to them if they can do that. But
I think they will. They're getting good crowds at home.
I'm just thinking the fact that Barrow's a pain in the backside to get to at the best of times, isn't it? That's the problem. But there you go. So yeah, no, great. Fair play to the pair of them. Both flying high there in first and second place. Currently in third, obviously you've got Northampton Town again. They're sort of moving along nicely. 3-0 win over Rochdale. Just can't buy a win at all. But we'll talk about that in a second. Bradford starting to find their feet under Hughes, aren't they? Getting a good run of results together, and partly helped by the form of one man. Again, we'll talk about the Exiles section once again this week. But that's 5 games without defeat now, and in those 5 games, 4 wins and a draw. So up to 5th place. There's always a feeling with Hughes that if you could get it going there, they would be all right, wouldn't they? Yeah,
I mean, I know we've said it for a few seasons, but they are too big a club, aren't they? I'm just looking at the form. They drew at home to Crewe, then they've won the next 3 league games. And they went to Tranmere and won. They've hammered Stevenage, who are, have been one of the pace setters. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's only Stevenage's second defeat of the season, so it tells you what you need to know. That it's a really, really impressive result for them. Looking down the other end of the table, do you reckon Mike Flynn's under pressure at Walsall? That's 7 games without a win now for them?
Possibly. They're not doing well, are they?
No. I mean, they've had a bit of investment in the summer, but I mean, actually, when you look at what they brought in...
They started the season brilliantly. They had a couple of wins. I think they beat Swindon in the League Cup. And since then, they've had 3 draws and lots of defeats.
Yeah.
I don't think Joe Riley's featured yet either, has he?
I think he picked up a knock, didn't he, in pre-season, which, I mean... We've said this before. If he gets knocks, Riley can be out for periods. Can he? We were quite lucky in that he didn't have to.
He hasn't played a league game for them yet, no.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a worrying sign for them as well. So, yeah, you imagine he might get a little bit more time, but I mean, once you get to like double figures of games without a win, that's when there's no choice but to say the pressure's on, isn't it? So
yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
Couple of managerial changes as well. Colchester and Hartlepool.
Yeah, definitely. Down at the Colchester appointed the replacement yet. I don't think they have yet, have they? But Wayne Brown's
I've not noticed it if they have.
I mean, surely they're not going to go for an internal appointment this time. Surely they're looking on the outside, because that's what I think is something like the last 6 or 7 appointments they've made have been internal appointments as replacement managers. They've got to look from the outside now, surely, because they've been struggling down the bottom for about 3 or 4 seasons now, haven't they? It's a tough one for them. And obviously Hartlepool, as you mentioned there, they've still not won a game, and Paul Hartley's not really been given the time to sort things out as yet there. I mean, the problem with that is that it's easy enough, sacking him. And to be fair, I mean, yeah, they've lost 5, but they've also drawn 4. So, they've not... They must have been close in at least a few of those games. And yet here they are. Now without a manager, obviously with a manager, but we'll talk about him in the second half. The rot set in for them last season, though, didn't it? Really, towards the end of last season, they were really struggling, weren't they?
Yeah, it's just not getting anywhere for them, is it?
No, absolutely not.
Not at all.
I mean, with Rochdale, I mean, looking at who they played at the weekend, I'm just looking through the results here, trying to find it now. They're Northampton, so I mean, that's another one of those games after having played Orient the week before where you think to yourself, all right, maybe we're going to have to take a hit here. Probably a bit disappointed to lose 3-0, but potentially, there's still time for Bentley to turn things around there. Neil Harris, though, he might be under a little bit of pressure of Gillingham soon, and my prediction of them as a unexpected struggler, looking quite a good one at the moment, really, isn't it? Because 9 games in, 6 points, 1 win. It's not looking great, is it? I mean, losing to Mansfield, teams will do that. They're a good team, but it sounds like they're just offering no threat going forward, doesn't it? So could be a tough old few weeks for Harris there, I think it's fair to say. Right, I think that sums up the League 2 roundup. I mean, at the moment, United sitting in 13th place. We can sort of start talking about the table now, can't we? It's about 8 games in. Obviously, we've got that game in hand, so if we win that game in hand, we'd jump up to at the very least 8th, because we'd overtake Grimsby, the team we're playing from the game in hand.
Yeah,
so,
I think once we've played midweek, I think are we the only team playing midweek? We are.
We will be, because we're the only.
And that'll be everyone on 10. So that's sort of like your first pointer indicator, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say 10 to 12 games.
Yeah, definitely. Right, well, let's take a little break then, and we'll be back with the second half of the show.
Hi, it's Morgan Feeney, and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
Feeney.
There you go, the big man settling in now in that right-hand side of the defence role, I think it's fair to say. Yeah, pretty happy with what he's doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't think there's much complaint, is there now? There you go. Right, into the second half of the show. Dan, you've not got a question to me because you've been trying to compile one, haven't you?
I'm currently compiling one, and I haven't had time to finish it off, basically.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So you've got.
But I do have a random fact that is slightly Carlisle tinged and features Newport. On the 18th of September 2010, a certain pair of twins became the first twins to manage against each other in the top 5 divisions of English football. Dean was manager of Newport County and was manager of Mansfield Town.
Yeah.
Newport won the match 1-0. That's the Holdsworth twins. That's as much as I'm saying.
Yes, thank you. I'll have to make a note there to put in the noise. I think it's fair to say. Well, interesting fact there, Dan. Thank you very much. I didn't even know that was the case. Right, behind enemy line section. This week we spoke to Ian from the 1912 Exiles Newport County podcast. Covered quite a few topics with Ian. It was a really good chat, actually. Talked about how they've coped after Mike Flynn's departure last season. How Ozzy Zanzala is getting on. Answer is he's not really getting on because he's not really played much. And most importantly, have they sorted out their infamous pitch problems at Rodney Parade? Here's the chat I had with Ian earlier in the week. So on this week's Behind Enemy Lines section, I'm joined by Ian, who's from the 1912 Exiles podcast, which is obviously a Newport County podcast. Ian, this marks your 10th season back in League 2. You're the joint longest serving team alongside Mansfield Town. Do you feel like the club is now very much established as a league club again? Because obviously there was a good, I think it was a 20-25 year period where you obviously were out of the league in exile, as your nickname suggests. Do you feel now like you are a proper football league club?
Yeah, thanks for reminding us that I was 25 years out of the league. They were very, very painful times. I do. I think that we are, we're a fan-run club now. We feel stable, I think. We're never going to be the biggest club in the world, but it feels very much as if we're on an even keel. I didn't realise actually that we were the second longest sort of League Two club, which is a bit of a weird thing. But we've had some good times in that as well. We've had some good cup runs. We've got to 2 playoff finals in the last few years. So I think the club is ambitious, but I think we're trying to grow within the means that we have, and I think that is for many clubs of our, down where we are, I think that is the way to go. So I'm really happy. If you'd have said to me, when I was bouncing around in whatever dreadful league we were playing in, if you'd have said to us we can have 10 years back in the Football League happily, I'd have bitten your hand off. So yeah, I feel good, and I feel we are pretty stable, and hopefully here to stay, or maybe go up one year.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we had our one season in the what was the conference then, not in the National League.
Yeah.
When you go to some of the places like no offence to these clubs, Liaramai, Tamworth, I mean Dagenham, I suppose became a league club as well, but places like that and Farnborough, you think to yourself, this doesn't feel right. And then obviously we got back at the first attempt, so it is quite a relief when you get back. And like I said, I don't really know you guys as a league club until you sort of came back in this time, because I'm just a little bit too young from my time watching Carlisle to watch it. One of our hosts, actually Dan, does remember you guys being in the league. I think he's been following them about 10 years longer than me, so he could remember your first time round, where obviously things sadly went belly up towards the end. Let's talk about Mike Flynn then. He a Newport legend, obviously,
Yep.
player and coach.
Yep.
Someone did perform miracles when he first took over, and
Definitely
did an incredible job to keep you up near the top end of the table for much of his time in charge. He basically decided last season, didn't he, that he felt he'd taken the club as far as he could, and it was time for someone else to have a go. Is there just that tinge of disappointment there, though, that he just couldn't quite get you over the line and get you up into League One?
I think everybody feels that and felt it at the time. I mean, when we got to the first playoff final, you were thinking, wow, this is our chance. And then, we lost with the last kick of the game at the end of extra time. The Tranmere, fair play to them. So, I think going back to Wembley that second time, 2 years ago with Flinney, that was the real chance. I think I went to Wembley that time really confident we were going to beat Morecambe and go up. And then again, we lost in the last minute, and it was like, oh my God. And I think probably at that stage, probably the club and Mike should have departed, gone their separate ways at that time, I think. Because I'm not sure his heart was in it really then after that to try and have another go. He kept us up, did the great escape when we were 11 points adrift and kept us up. We had the cup runs, 2 Wembley playoffs. He probably couldn't have done any more. So he probably should have gone after that playoff win, really, a playoff defeat. But he kept going for a bit, and then it sort of petered out, really. So, he goes with everybody's best wishes. He's a Newport legend, and we all love him. But sometimes you've got to move on, haven't you? And he chose to do that, not the club, and he walked. And then we've got another Newport legend in, who's having a bit of a tough time, but he's even more of a legend in a way. He's got more connections with Newport almost than Mike, to be honest.
Well, yeah, you mentioned this when we were chatting before. This is our second attempt to record this. By the way, anyone listening, we had some issues the first time round. But James Rowbury, so your new manager, say new manager, he's been in charge for a year now. Obviously, the man who replaced Flynn. How's he viewed by the fans? Because he seems to be one of these coaches that's been very highly thought of for quite a few years, and he's done some good stuff last season. But sometimes it can be a struggle for those sort of coaches, can't it, to transfer that potential and knowledge into a head coach role, because it's a lot different than being, your development coach who works with players on the techniques and stuff like that, to being the one who's responsible for motivating them and having to deal with any issues that come up as well.
Yeah, I think that when he was appointed, I think the board did a really good job of not panicking. So Flynn's assistant, Hastwell, who has gone with him now to Walsall, he stayed for a few weeks to just steady the ship while the board had a look around. And I think that, when you're a club of our level, you've got 2 choices really, haven't you? You've got to go for sort of the old war horses who've been around for a while and sort of know their onions, or you've got to look at someone new and progressive who hasn't cut their teeth much anywhere. And I think certainly our pod, and I think most of the fan base was really happy with the Rowbury choice. Yeah. Because of his connections to the club. He's Newport born and bred. He's lived in the city even when he was first team coach at Cardiff. Dare I mention their name? And when he was working for the FAW as one of their coaches, he's always lived in the town. He was a ball boy for us when we were in the non-leagues when he was like 5 years old. Mascot, and his dad and granddad played for us. So he's a massive. He is Mr. Newport in a way. But it's absolutely right. It's his first proper manager's job, and it's a different thing. Now, we all said on our pod last year when we appointed him, there's going to come a time when he's going to have a tough run, isn't he? And his question is how he learns from that and how he can get through that. We're in that tough run now, to be honest, because last year we played some absolutely brilliant football. I was amazed at what he did in turning their club around in terms of the style of play. I've been going for 40 odd years. Went to Carlisle many times back before we got kicked out of the league, and it's nice to be able to come back and go there again. But he was played some really good football last year, some of the best I've seen in 40 years odd. But it slightly collapsed at the end of last year, and it hasn't really got going again this year. So we are in a bit of a sticky patch, to be honest with you. And I'm surprised there's that much gnashing of teeth from the fans, from our fan base. I'm surprised you haven't heard it up in Carlisle, to be honest with you.
Well, it's interesting because it's almost like a bit of a mirror there with Carlisle. Obviously, we've got Paul Simpson as our manager.
Yeah,
Carlisle, born and bred, played for the club for a season. Obviously, became player manager and achieved incredible things. And I'm not 100% sure where. I imagine he probably was a ball, but he definitely went to games when he was younger. His uncle played for us as well, so it just goes to show, the slight similarities there between the two clubs, isn't there? Got to talk about Dom Telford. You lost him in the summer.
To the crypto bros of Crawley.
Yeah. In one sense, a lot of people on the outside probably looking, thinking, it's a bit of a big blow, that isn't it, for Newport? But was there always a thing? Because we got this from the outside, and we said on our pod, we thought he was probably going to be the biggest flop of the season. There's always a feeling that his form was a little bit of a flash in the pan moment. He was just everything, all the conditions were right for him at Newport when it happened, and he probably won't score that many goals again in a season.
I agree with that. I think that, certainly the manager changed because Flynn wasn't playing him. Flynn was looking to ship him out on loan, so he didn't play under Flynn, even though Flynn brought him in from Plymouth. He didn't play for him. It was only when Robury took over, and this is a sign of his ability to coach, I think, and to improve players. That he got him, and then once we got Finn Azaz and Cooper and Kane, our sort of fizzy midfielders, we called them last year, our loan players that we brought in. He developed this system that really suited playing for him and alongside Courtney Baker Richardson, who we also lost, who's gone to Crewe. So it was a really good formation and it worked really well. And I put a lot of that down to Robury. So although he's getting some flack now, Robury, people need to remember that what he did for Telford, and he's done nothing since he's gone to Crawley, has he? So I wasn't. Everyone wanted him to stay, obviously, but I wasn't wildly upset that he went because I think it was a little bit of a, is he going to score 25 goals every season? Probably not, and I'd be surprised if he gets it down at Crawley. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But I think he had his best year with us, and that's it.
I think it's one of those ones for a player like him as well. Sometimes you've just got to take the opportunity of that big contract, that one chance you get at his age, don't you, to sign a deal that's probably better than any other club will offer him. He's
got a 3-year deal. He got a 3-year deal. Who gets that at our level, and probably on far more money than we were ever going to be able to pay him. So you can't begrudge someone of that. You can't begrudge him that, and I wish him well, but I don't think he's going to score the goals that he scored for us.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you about Ozzy Zanzala now. How's he getting on for you? Because he took his time to find his feet with us. He was there was quite a lot of fans who, and to be honest, some of us on our podcast, probably me included, would have quite happily shipped him out after about 7 or 8 games because he looked hopeless, and then he hit a real streak of form to end of that season, only to then jump ship to Barrow in the summer, which obviously didn't make him an overly popular person with our fans. He managed to fall out with them at Barrow, and he obviously ended up at Exeter in the last season and got promoted with them. Yep. He's now jumped ship again to come to you guys.
Yep.
He's injured. Is he injured? Well, there you go. That probably sums it up, doesn't it? Yeah.
That's one of our issues because we signed Omar Bogle, who looks a real player at this level, and the idea was to have Bogle and Zanzala as the front two, which I think would be really good. And they've only played one game together, which was the opener at Sutton, and they looked decent. I was down at that, and they looked really decent for that. And I was quite excited to see that Zanzala had the pace and the legs and the running, and Bogle looked a real handful. And he has to be fair, he scored quite a few. We're struggling, but he scored quite a few goals already this season. So, but unfortunately, I think in the second game or third game, Zanzala got injured, and I think he's going to be out probably still for another couple of weeks. I think it is. So you're not going to see him. He's not going to return to haunt you.
Well, he didn't do it for Barrow last season. He managed to miss an absolute sitter against us, actually. So So yeah, it's just to know that he's injured then now. So that's a little bit of a shame not to see him again, but there you go.
I wish he was out there. We could do with him.
I mean, I can't do a chat with you guys without asking about the Rodney Parade pitch. Now, this is something that's been a bit of a bone of contention for League Two fans for quite a while. I have to say, the last season or so, it's looked a lot better. Have the problems been resolved? And how frustrating is it? I think you share it with 2 rugby clubs, don't you, rather than just one?
Well, this is the big change. So last season, it was an absolute carpet, brilliant, and won League Two pitch of the year, I think, or the groundsman of the year, something like that. Now, it appears, touch wood, we've solved the problem, and that's partly one of the reasons why we changed our style of football, because Flynn on the sandpit had to be incredibly pragmatic. He couldn't play football on it. Now we've got a proper surface. It means that we can play football, but also means other clubs can as well. But what happened? Yeah, we used to have 2 rugby clubs and us, and you just can't. Where we are, we get plenty of rain. You just can't sustain it. So one of those rugby clubs has moved out. The Welsh Rugby Union, who own the ground, which is another whole. We could have a whole pod on that and the contentiousness around that. But they own the ground. They put some money in to properly redo the pitch this time. And they did that at the start of last year, which meant that our first 4 or 5 games were all played away last season.
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
But that, and I was like, well, let's see how it holds up once the Welsh wet weather gets on it, and it held up really well. So, and again this season it looks absolutely pristine. So there should be, certainly for this Saturday, there'll be no problems at all with the pitch. It's those problems are behind us, he says confidently.
I mean, the ground itself, as you mentioned, the fact that it's owned by Welsh Rugby, and I'm guessing you don't want to go into a huge amount of detail on this because it probably would take quite a while. But is there sort of ambitions to potentially develop the ground? Because it is one of those ones that does look quite basic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In the nicest respects, not quite as bad as Holker Street. Let's put it that way. But it looks, it's a mishmash, isn't it? And it's got character, but it's not quite. It's probably just about Football League standard, isn't it? In places.
Yeah. I think the main stand, which is the Hazel stand, I think that's the oldest. I think it dates back to something like 1871. I think it's the oldest ground of sports ground in the UK. I think so. Wow. And it feels a bit old.
Yeah.
And so there's been bits of development, but obviously because it's always been primarily a rugby ground, that hasn't lent itself to having ends, so the away end is a bit temporary and all. So it is a bit unique. Let's put it that way, and a bit odd. And I think yes, there is ambitions to improve that ground. But it's all tied into the ownership of, we share it with the Newport County Dragons, who are the sort of regional rugby club, and it's owned by the Welsh Rugby Union, who own all of the regional rugby clubs. It's a very strange setup. We've had a whole pod on this, and what we would like to see is some sort of way that the council, the Dragons, and ourselves, could take over that club, because there's room for development. You could put a hotel behind one of the ends. You could do some really interesting stuff with it. But how and when that's going to happen, and being a supporter-run club, we're not sitting on millions of pounds in our bank account. So how we do that is going to be a challenge. But it's a worry for us, because in a year or so's time, I think it is, our lease is up. So there's a lot of conversations about, well, what happens then? So that's a big unknown for us. What happens with the ground? What happens? Where can we play? This is the 5th home ground that I've seen us play at, which must be unique. So, it is home, and I just hope we can take it on with the Dragons and make it better than it is.
Well,
but it's all we've got.
You say it's the 5th. You think it's unique because it's the 5th home ground you've seen them play at, right?
Yeah.
I think I can just about beat that, because I've seen Carlisle play at Brunton Park.
Yeah.
And then obviously when we got flooded in 2005, we played an FA Trophy game at Workington's Borough Park.
Okay.
We also played a game in that season in the FA Trophy against Barnet at Christie Park, Morecambe's old ground. And then when we got flooded again in 2015-16, we played home games at Deepdale, Blackpool, and Blackburn. So six in total.
That is impressive.
We almost also had the. It would have been an incredible feat to do. We nearly played a home game at Gretna in Scotland.
Wow.
So we would have played a home game in a different country, basically, because that was one of the FA. I think it was actually a National League game against Lee Armagh was going to be played there, but it was called off due to snow. And by the time the snow and everything had gone, the ground was fixed again anyway, so we just played it at home. So
I love that, Lee. I didn't know that about Carlisle. I knew about some of the flooding, but I didn't know there'd been that much.
Yeah,
I guess the thing with us was we had to play whole seasons and stuff in different, all over the place because of the
little bit different
Welsh FA and stuff. But it's been a journey.
Yeah. Well, before we finish up and we get some predictions, just for all the Cala fans going down, who's the danger man to watch out for in your squad then? So you mentioned Omar Bogle already. He's a handful up front, but is anyone else?
There's a lad we've got on loan from Bournemouth called Nathan Mariah Welsh, who plays in midfield, and he looks a real player. So he's one of those people who hopefully a bit like Azaz and those we brought on last year and developed. Yeah. He looks really good. And the other one we've got is a lad called, I'm not sure 100% certain he's going to play, but Evans, who we brought out from the Welsh League. He looks
I've heard him.
He looks a really good player as well, who I think will develop with us. So I'd say Evans and Mariah Welsh are the two outside Bogle to keep an eye on.
Yeah, because I think a lot of our fans will be aware of is it Matty Dolan, because he's someone who's always really impressed me every time we played against you guys. He's a really good footballer, isn't he? So
I think so, but the fans aren't happy with him at the minute. Too slow. Yeah, they're saying too slow and all this sort of stuff. So, but I'm a Dolan fan. So
I was going to say, I don't think I've seen him have a duff game against us, and our record against you guys is not great, especially down in Newport, at least. Anyway, Ian, I won't keep you too much longer. So just to sum things up, what's your prediction for the weekend?
Well, we're desperate for a win. I'm going to be honest with this. Some of the lads have said all you lot have got to do. I've heard you're a very attacking side. All you've got to do is keep a clean sheet till half time. We'll make a mistake, you'll win. But that's so you couldn't play us at a better time.
We miss a lot of sitters. We miss a lot of sitters.
The flip side to that is we need a win. So I think they're going to come out fired up on Saturday. I could see it being a fairly open but scrappy game, if you know what I mean. Chances probably taken and missed at both ends. I really want Rowbury to succeed, so I'm pinning this one on him, and I think we're gonna squeak it 2-1.
Well, there you go, Ian. Thanks very much for your time, and all the best for the rest of the season.
All the best for the season, just not this Saturday.
Exactly. Cheers,
mate. Bye now.
Okay, thanks once again to Ian for giving up his time to speak to us. A really good chat there. It's a weird one, Newport, isn't it? Because I don't remember much. Obviously, I don't have memories of them as a football league club first time round because I'm too young. I didn't go to watch Carlisle games when we played against them in the old Division 4. My first game, 95, and by that point they were working their way back up the pyramid, having reformed. You can remember them as a lower league team, can't you, from Carlisle playing against them back then? And yet, when they came up into the league, I just thought them, football league club. I didn't really, when you look at some clubs, you look at Salford, you think they're a non-league club, aren't they? Really, Harrogate, non-league club. Newport, I always just thought, it's a football league club. Makes sense, really. It's a biggish place, decent fan base they can capture there. So, yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are when they came back into the league. And I know what your thoughts are on Welsh clubs in the league, actually, so maybe not the best person to ask. But
put them all back in the League of Wales.
Yeah, exactly. But no, seriously.
Cardiff, Swansea, Wrexham.
They feel like a proper club, don't they?
Yeah, they are. They've had a bit of a cup tradition in recent seasons as well, haven't they? They've done excellent through that. But, like we said at the top of the show, they're treading water a bit in this league. They've been unlucky a couple of times.
It's difficult making that next step, and I think, as Ian was mentioning, the fact that they don't own their ground as well, it's the Welsh Rugby that own it, and trying to get it renovated and stuff like that is a real challenge. So that's the difficulty, isn't it? Sometimes when you come up and you can't do those sort of things, and then you see like a Salford that are building their little ground and they're potentially moving into what Sale Sharks ground and sharing with them the AJ Bell. And then you look and you think, if Newport could do something like that, they could be getting 6,000-7,000 crowds there easily. Surely you'd think, potentially, if they got themselves up into League One. And you see Salford. I mean, I'm getting off on a point here, really, aren't I? Really, but there you go. Well, let's talk about this weekend's game. The away pub, the recommended by the London branch, is the Wig and Pen, which is at 22-24 Stow Hill, which is at the postcode NP21JD. This weekend's referee is Mr. Keith Stroud. When I saw this name, I thought to myself, why does that name seem familiar? I forgot he was a Premier League ref for a few seasons until I looked it up. I completely forgot. He's 53, so he's doing quite well to still be a Football League referee. You'd imagine it might be his last season this year. It's his 19th season, Stroud, as an EFL referee. He's taken charge of 8 games so far this season, handing out 41 yellows and 2 red cards, both of which came in the same game, Burnley-Blackburn, because he actually is a championship level referee, so he's only refereeing this game because it's international weekend, isn't it? So he'll drop down to this level basically to cover a game. Last season he handed out 145 yellow cards and 5 red cards in 33 games. So he is particularly card happy, at least 4 a game. Maybe 4.5 a game actually, isn't it? Nearly 5. Last time he took charge of a United game though, Dan, nearly 10 years ago. It's basically 11 years and 10 months basically since he last took charge of a United game, which was the trip to Shrewsbury Town in December 2012. Shrewsbury ran out 2-1 winners. Liam Noble scored United's goal and he handed out 2 bookings, one to a Shrews player and one to Lee Miller. United strike force that evening, Dan, or that day? Lee Miller and Joe Garner.
I was just going to say, well, Lee Miller, obviously.
Yeah, obviously he's one of them. Yeah, it was a giveaway. Yeah. But blimey, that's a partnership and a half, isn't it? You're going to get a bit of a bruising there as a defender, you'd think. Head-to-head record, it's going to be the 27th meeting between the two sides, including obviously the previous carnation of Newport and as a dedicated stato, this annoys me because it is the 27th meeting. I think actually it is, because I think there's some sort of weird legal precedent on this one that it actually is technically the old club still. Yeah, I think it's a strange one, this one. So not a great record though.
Their club badge has both years on it, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's there's 7 wins to United, 8 draws and 11 wins for the Exiles. And great nickname that, the Exiles, actually, to be fair. That's a really nice one. I wonder what their nickname was before they had to reform, because I think that's where the nickname came from. It's an interesting one. Their manager, James Rowbury, he's one of these sort of young and upcoming coaches, wasn't he? Who, he was working in the setup at Cardiff. I think he's been at the Football Association for Wales as well for quite a bit. He's not really had a playing career of any note, but really well thought of. It can be tough for those. I mentioned this in the interview with chat with Ian. It can be tough for those sort of coaches, can't it? Because it's a different environment to being like a development coach and being someone who's really good tactically, to then have to manage a group of players as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Just got rolling back to nicknames.
Yeah.
The highly unoriginal, the County.
Oh, there you go.
The Port, or the Ironsides.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. That makes sense because it's big steelworks there, wasn't it, back in the day? So, good stuff. But yeah, for Rowbury, it's tough for coaches like that, can't it, sometimes, to go. It's a totally different environment to being like a tactically based sort of development sort of coach, to then be managing a group of lads in the Football League.
Yeah, there's obvious differences between development and real men's Saturday afternoon football. Yeah. You've for the start, you've got to be a lot harsher. Yeah. In the real stuff, shout a bit now and again, which you maybe don't do as much with development, because obviously you're trying to develop them and not turn them off. You know?
The problem is, if you get an experienced campaigner sat in that dressing room as well, if things start to go wrong, they're going to look at things and say, what the hell do you know? You've never played the game before. You're telling me to do this. You've not experienced being on the pitch. The risk, isn't it? You've got to have a bit of success, really, so you can back yourself. Well, I've done this, this, and this. So there you go. So yeah, it's a difficult one for him. Looking at their squad, Dan, any really stand out for you? I mean, I think we mentioned this in pre-season, that Will Evans is an interesting one, signed from Barla Town in the Welsh leagues, wasn't he?
Yeah, we always like that sort of signing, don't we? You know,
you can get more of them at Newport, are you, than most clubs, I suppose. But
Newport they're quite handy because they can look at the likes of Cardiff and Swansea for younger players who are getting released. I think
Bristol City as well, can't you?
They brought in Sam Bowen and they've got Chanka Zimber on loan. You've got Bristol City as well. They should have some decent. I think they have over the years.
They've had some good ones.
Haven't they?
I think Finn Azaz last season was a good one, wasn't he? They had on loan from Aston Villa, really impressive. But looking through, there's some experienced campaigns still in there. There's Scott Bennett and Matt Dolan, the two stand out, don't they? I said to Ian as well that I don't think I've seen Matt Dolan have a bad game against us. He always seems to be a decent player, doesn't he? He's one of the ones you think he'd be quite handy to have in midfield here, actually, wouldn't he? But yeah, he's decent. And Mickey Dimitriou as well in defence as well. He's always been a good performer. Omar Bogle up front, getting a few goals for them, isn't he? He seems to be settling in quite well there. He's one of those ones where he had such a great start at Grimsby and then he never quite repeated it after that, did he? And now he seems to have found his feet a little bit at this level again, and he's doing quite well there.
Yeah, it's one of those who, for me, just when I've seen him play, I've never been ultra amazed by him, but he seems to be clicking there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm trying to think. He was at Cardiff, but he went out on loan a lot, wasn't he? And he was at Charlton and Doncaster. He was at Hartlepool, wasn't he? And he got the odd goal, but he just. I remember watching him. I think it was for Hartlepool, and I was like, "Is he all that?" But no, it's you know, like I say, some of these players, it just clicks at certain times. It seems to be clicking for him at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely seems to be making a bit of a difference for him, doesn't it? And I mean, the frustrating thing for them is obviously that Ozzy Zanzala has been out injured since pretty much the first game, unfortunately. So they've not been able to strike up a partnership. I think they played that first game together and they looked lively, and then since then he's been out injured. So it's been really tough for them. And I mean, Zanzala, as I've mentioned this before, he takes a while to settle a club sometimes, doesn't he? And then ends up leaving after 6 months, and you think he needs to find a club and settle down, really, doesn't he? That's the thing, and you do wonder how often it is an agent getting in his ear there and saying, "No, you should be getting a better deal. You should be getting this."
Well, I think that's been half proven by the amount of times he's moved on already.
Yeah, I think that's fairly telling, isn't it? I think it's fair to say.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's squad wise, it you know, good mix of experience with some young and upcoming players there, especially the ones they've had on loan. So wouldn't be. I mean. They're struggling a little bit at the moment, but I can't see them being dragged into trouble. To be honest, I think that at the very least,
I think they've got enough. You know, they've got like you say, Bennett. You know, players like Dimitri who have been about. You know,
Yeah, exactly that. Last time out, they played our county neighbours, Barrow, didn't they? And they lost 2-0 to the high-flying Bluebirds. Josh Gordon got a brace, including a second-half penalty in that game.
I heard Adam from Radio Cumbria, the Barrow summariser, and I got the impression that up until Barrow scored on half-time, Newport fairly battered them. They just they couldn't convert anything, and I don't think they had the game, they just didn't convert anything or create much with it.
Yeah, could be frustrating, that, can't it, sometimes, and... Yeah, I think, like I said, for Newport this season, I think it's about getting themselves a bit more stable again and building up. And someone like Rowbury's not. When you look at, I think it's actually quite a strong division. Actually, when you look at this season, when you look at the fact that, you know, even squads that you thought were quite good, like your Tranmere's and that, and are struggling to make an impact, it shows just how good some of the teams actually can be. So it could be tough for them. And I put ourselves amongst that. You know, I think we're doing really well considering all the injuries we've had, which. Brings it on a bit.
Well, funnily enough, I was talking to. I've been out and about today. I bumped into a lad who's a listener. Hiya, Rob. I'll give you a shout out. And we were both saying, you know, when we have our best 11 available and our best bench available, we'll give any team in this division a game. 100%. We've said it before. We'll say it again. You know,
definitely, absolutely. And because of that, we're still giving teams games when, truth be told, we're quite fit on the ground for attacking options right now.
Yeah.
Shows just how well we're playing and how well drilled Simmer's got them.
I always say you don't win promotion in October and November.
No,
you win it. You win it in April. That's when you win
it. Definitely, and hopefully the work Simmer has done to get the fitness of those players up in terms of match fitness as much as anything will really help. Well, that brings us on nice. Let's talk about United, and injury wise, not a massive amount of change. Obviously, we're waiting to hear on Amari Patrick and what happened with him in midweek. I mean, as we're recording,
Kristian Dennis as well.
That is a little bit worried, but it sounded to me like that was a precaution, not playing him. And I hopefully a bit. Hopefully it's one of those ones where maybe he's got a little bit of a niggle and he just thinks, you know what, I'll just play for it. I'll be fine.
But then you worry about playing Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday.
True. So you imagine maybe it'll be that Jack Stratton gets his chance in one of those games. So
or he'll certainly come off the bench a bit earlier or something.
big opportunity, and potentially a big opportunity for Nick Bellado as well, because he could well feature on the bench, couldn't he? And you know, I say we don't talk about the trophy game, but you know, both him and Ryan Carr made their debuts in that game. Congratulations to both of them, to be fair, and hopefully we'll follow up with a league game. We can probably talk about their performances.
Bodes well for them, though, doesn't it? You know,
absolutely, yeah. And
Paul Simpson is a manager. I think Blummy was saying this on Radio Cumbria as well. That if young lads do impress, he will promote them and give them a go.
But he won't just hand them off for fun, will he?
No, not at all. No, not at all.
Exactly that. So, yeah. So, injury-wise, that's where we are. Jamie Devitt, a little update on that. A bit better news, isn't it, than we expected? There was a worry he could be out to, like, February, March, wasn't there, at one point? It was a real worry, but looks like is it 8 weeks, I think we've heard, for him?
7 to 8 weeks.
So, frustrating, I know, but hopefully that means he's back just in time for the busy Christmas period, and he'll give us a really good option there, won't he?
Definitely.
In that role. So, that's a bit of encouragement. Encouraging as well, I suppose, the fact that Toby, Sho Silva, Ben Barkley, and Ryan Edmondson have both been doing a bit of running on the grass, haven't they?
Yeah.
Still not clear when Edmondson's going to be back. I don't think we've had a time scale on his, have we? Really? So I've been trying to find it, but I can't find it anywhere. So hopefully not too long with him, because we want to see him getting out there, because he looks so good in pre-season. And bear in mind he was playing with an injury in pre-season as well. If he's fit,
he's had a very stop-start, hasn't he?
So really frustrating as well that he recovers from that hip injury and then gets an ankle one in the first game back. So nothing you can do about that, I guess. But there you go. So yeah, but basically in terms of the lineup, again, it's a case of who's fit, isn't it? And if both Amari and Kristian are both injured, what do you do? I mean, I suppose you start with maybe Jack Stretton and maybe play young Sonny Hilton just off him as well. Maybe
I was going to say, does it bring? I mean, I think Dennis will be fit. Patrick, 50-50, I'd say.
Yeah.
If Patrick is missing,
do you bring Jack in, or do you go 4-3-3 and maybe put Hilton on one of the wings and Dennis on the other?
Or you could still keep the wing backs and sort of play 4. You'd have your 2 in the middle, Guy and Moxon, with Gibson and Hilton sort of wide-ish.
Yeah, leaving yourself potentially a little bit open. But then I suppose you could play them as number 10s as well. Could you 2 number 10s in the front row? So plenty of options, but I mean, hopefully they're both fit. That's the key thing, isn't it? So there you go. Right, let's do predictions then, Dan. So before we get on with those, score-wise, it's pretty much as you are, isn't it? You've got 1 point ahead of me now again, because you predicted Callum Guy would score and Kristian Dennis, so well done on that one. I predicted Kristian Dennis, as I do every week, just to make sure I get my points. And Mike did as well, so we all got a point last week. You got 2, so you're on top with 8 points. Mike's got, I've got 7 and Mike's got 4. So what are you going for this weekend?
I'm going to go for a 2-1 win late on. I want to say Kristian Dennis is fit and scores, obviously. And I'm going to go Jordan Gibson's due a goal.
Okay, 2-1 with that.
And Paul Simpson has been saying, he deserves a goal. So
100%.
Yeah.
Right. For mine, what am I going to go with? That's the question. I'm going to go with a 2-0 win. And I'm going to go with goal scorers Owen Moxon and I don't know if Mari's going to be fit. That's the problem. Kristian Dennis. I mean, it's an obvious one, isn't it? Why change the habit of a lifetime? There you go. Here's what Mike had to say in terms of his prediction.
So I'm backing a 1-0 win with Dennis getting the goal.
So if Kristian Dennis scores, nothing changes, basically. That's what's going to happen, isn't it, basically, this week? But there you go. Right, Dan, let's go on to the X-Files section. And, plenty to cover this week, isn't there? Go.
Yeah, a few goals kicking about and some other bits of news. Naki Wells scored in Bristol City's 2-1 defeat at Burnley. Ryan Loftus scored again. He's got a few recently, hasn't he?
Yeah.
In Bristol Rovers, 6-3 home defeat to Lincoln. That's some game.
It's a balmy one, isn't it?
Can you imagine Joy Barton after that?
Oh, he'd be raging, wouldn't he? He'd be raging.
Andy Cook's on fire at the moment. 2 more in Bradford's impressive 3-0 win over Stevenage.
He's still behind Sam Hoskins, isn't he, in top scorer, but he's closing in on him fast.
Yeah. Kedwin Scott scored again for Notts County. Seems to be finding his feet. 3-1 defeat at Dorking.
I mean,
that's a great story, the Dorking one. There's some good articles.
It's a great story, but as a Notts County fan, you're thinking, oh, for God, losing to Dorking Wanderers, man, it's just, wow.
Give me a goal after 3 o'clock. Give me 2 there. Scored for Yeovil in a 2-2 draw with Chesterfield. Darryl Duffy, you haven't mentioned him for a while, scored in Stranraer's 4-1 defeat at Stirling Albion. And then off to the FA Cup, Mark Beck scored a hat-trick. Darlington had a good 3-2 win over Southport. And Lewis Alexandra scored a hat-trick in South Shield's 5-0 win at Shildon.
I mean, you could never imagine Lewis Alexandra scoring a hat-trick for us, could you?
No.
Great player as he was. But well done to him.
And one midweek that you forgot to put on the list, Joe McKee scored for Dumbarton in a 3-2 defeat at Stranraer. A few bits of other news. James Trafford, called up to the England under-21 squad again after impressing for Bolton.
He's done really well.
Jared Branthwaite, what a game. PSV v Feyenoord at the weekend, always a big game. 4-3 win for PSV. Branthwaite scored his first goal and got man of the match and played the full 90. And what a goal it is. It's worth looking up.
Such a great corner move, isn't it?
It's like a low corner, and it's very Zlatan-esque, isn't it? He just sort of flicks it with his foot low, hard, and in.
And sometimes you see those when you think, that's just an accident, that's not meant. That was meant. That's meant. A move.
Yeah. That's really a training ground move. Yeah.
Really good stuff.
Yeah. The aforementioned Gimme Toure was in the National League Team of the Week.
Yeah.
James Hooper has left Workington Reds. I think the travel and work and that. They can put 7 days in teams for players at that level.
Someone's putting 7 days in. We don't know who yet because I haven't seen the report anywhere. But
And a piece of managerial news that you've probably all seen.
Yeah.
A certain Keith Curle is interim manager at Hartlepool.
Interesting though, that is it. It's almost like I almost wonder if it's almost a little trial basis, like
try before you buy, isn't it?
Come in and Curle's the kind of man where he's fine. Because if he comes in and if it's still bad, he'll just say it's a mess. I can't do anything with it. Can I? He can walk away and say it's not recoverable. But if he starts to turn things around, he gets the job and he'll probably be quite happy, won't he? So
certainly makes our trip in 2 weeks a bit more interesting.
And if you see news,
breaking news.
Yeah.
There are going to be no trains to Hartlepool on the 8th of October because there is a train strike. I am declaring a vested interest, so I'm making no further comment.
One thing we actually should add in that Keith Curle bit is who his coaching staff are going to be. Mr. Colin
Anthony
West.
Sweeney. And Anthony Sweeney.
Yeah, Anthony Sweeney returned for a coaching role because he had a coaching role. He left, didn't he? And then he's obviously coming back now. So Sweeney's going to be the first team coach, and Colin West is going to assist.
He's a bit of a legend at Hartlepool, isn't he, Sweeney?
Well, I think Colin West was at Hartlepool for a bit, wasn't he, as well? I'm sure he used to be an assistant there. Was he under Chris Turney? He was assistant or something like that, I think.
Possibly.
Seems to ring a bell. But so getting the band back together, isn't he? Mr. Curle. So there you go. That's the Exiles section this week. Thanks very much, Dan. And that's this week's episode done. Thanks once again to our sponsors, the London branch. Another good episode, wasn't it, Dan? got through it all.
We're going to squeeze a Grimsby one out midweek, aren't we?
Yeah, that sounds a bit dodgy, that, doesn't it?
Squeeze a Grimsby out. Ooh.
So we're going to try and get a Grimsby preview done on Sunday. I'm going to be doing a bit with the Grimsby podcast as well, I think, at the weekend, and they're going to do a bit for us as well, which is always good to see. We're going to get that done early next week, and then we've got the crew preview now. We're going to have to see how we're going to fit this one in, because I'm going to be up in Cumbria on Thursday and Friday.
We've got a busy couple of days, haven't we, doing a bit of stuff.
So we're going to get.
We're not going to say what.
We're going to get a couple of special episodes sorted for you all over the Thursday, Friday. So
interesting people to talk to and stuff.
Yeah, it should be really good if we can get that sorted. So we're probably going to have to try and fit in the crew preview on the Wednesday if possible. We'll have to see what our schedules are like. We might well even just pack it into the Grimsby one as well, possibly. It might end up being that. So you might get your preview episode a little bit earlier than usual this week for the weekend game. But so all looking good, Dan, isn't it? Really, at the moment,
Yeah,
going along well. Still only one defeat. And like I said, that one defeat we had was a game where we just didn't play well, did we? And got beat by a decent team. So can't grumble at all. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back obviously early next week with the Grimsby preview. And up the Blues.
Up the Blues.
All are united within us.